claim they like riding, but I know that they ain't. Ride or die. I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint. Ride or die.
Had to turn off my fan to do this intro. Apparently, like, this mic is ultra sensitive. So this is my conversation with Amber Rose. We talk about speaking in tongues. We talk about her conversation with John Lee, the problematic nature of his message, what he says. We jokingly point out called dad bod theology, which is where you create your own theology that is not actual Christian theology. That being said, you won't see any of the problematic clips of things that John has said, but there is a channel that does log these, and that's called Tom Rabbit. His is more TVMA, mature audience. I try to keep my content more PG-13. I will put uncensored if there's any really problematic content. That way, you have a heads up before you listen to it with little kids around. Also, in this one, I censor out a few things, a couple of F-bombs, for example. That being said, enjoy the discussion that I had with Amber Rose and other people about speaking in tongues and about John Lee. And once again, if you like this video, click like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Every bit of that helps. Also, if you click the bell, you'll get notifications when I do a live video, and then you can come and have a conversation with me as well.
What up, Amber? How goes work?
Hey, what's up? It's good. They literally were like, you need to get off the phone yesterday. So I had to jump out the room real quick. But how's everyone doing?
Good. We were just talking about this wild shit Daniel got into last night on YouTube. It's pinned at the top. You should check it out when you get a chance. It's hilarious.
Okay. I definitely will.
There's a gentleman who pretends to be a faith healer, but he believes he's a faith healer, and he takes advantage of people for monetary gain.
You know, James, if he's
That's
pretending,
sad.
he's not believing. He's either
Well,
pretending or believing.
I think to a degree he believes the delusion, but then I think there's an element of pretend with it as well. I think like he's convinced himself of this. Amber, I had a question for you. I was curious, like, I know you've interacted with Christians, but have you ever interacted with a Christian like John Lee before?
Yes. Me and John Lee have had our moment.
I think he means in real life.
Oh, no. No. John
No,
Lee's
definitely not.
very unique. Well,
Yes.
I think like they had to tell me in the room that he was a Calvinist. I'd never heard of that before in my life. So yeah, nothing like that. But I've run into very extreme Christians that like spoke in tongues and like grabbed my face and like just wild shit.
I know of Christians speaking in tongues, but you said that a Christian grabbed your face.
Yeah, it was my friend's mom. Yeah, grabbed my head, like my forehead and the back of my head, and like shook my head and spoke in tongues. Yeah.
You know, come to think about it, because I've been a Christian again for the past couple of years, but I remember an experience like 7, 8 years ago. I went to a church that spoke tongues. Like every time a worship song hit, they did it. And actually, I remember one of the guys like putting their arm on my shoulder and just like smacking me in the back, like somehow that was gonna make me repeat or say the same like tongue thing that they were doing over and over again. So when you said that, it just kind of brought that back to my mind. That might be, maybe that's something that's standard like that, that like shaking or bodily smack to get you to speak it.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like it was very it was scary actually. It was really scary. When I think about it, it's like really triggering because uh I don't really associate that with like a good person. It just felt very I don't know, like evil, I guess.
It's violent, right? It's like
Yeah.
killing.
Yeah, it
Well,
just felt like traumatizing.
yeah, in some of these smaller churches, it's like almost like a forced thing to speak in tongues because they'll say things like you can't have the shoe without the tongue, and that if you don't speak in tongues, you're not saved. So they will. Uh, I've seen people cry and scream at like the altar because their kid, with all sincerity, is asking for the gift of tongues, and he's not speaking in tongues, and it's just it's very, very emotionally devastating. I think that when people do that to that heavy extent, that they definitely abuse Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most Christians abuse Christianity, you know. Not all per se, but most that I've encountered for sure.
Yeah, I think I take naturally because I'm a Christian. I take the position that I don't believe that majority of Christians do bad things or are bad people. In the same way that I don't take the position that the majority of atheists do bad things, but there are people within the group that do give Christians a black eye, and sadly, people like John Lee are the loudest voices drumming here, and he says the most crazy, ridiculous things, like when he's talking about God actually causing the to rape a child. Like how can somebody
Disgusting.
how can somebody say that?
Because he's basically trying to say whatever God's will is, then he's right, and no matter how we personally feel about it, we shouldn't, which is insane.
Why isn't John here? Fuck is John?
They're in a secret
I
room.
think he's still in a they're in a
Browbeating
private room in the map.
Oh,
Matt Adams.
right.
Johnny.
Oh.
On together, a browbeating
They're-
Matt Adams to try and silence him and like bring him back into the gang where they just like close ranks. That's what's
Just
happening.
ping Matt Adams, Haiti. He always responds to you.
Well, no, it sounds like it's working from what Matt's telling me. Fortunately,
Tell him
they've
to
got to.
abandon.
Send Matt Adams in the room so that I can talk
All
with
right, I'll
him.
say you want to talk to him, James. Hold on.
Yeah, because he needs to not kowtow to that. Like, if you say something really stupid and really immoral like John Lee did, then it needs to be called out. I don't know if John Lee realizes this, but in some
He,
cases he comes off like he's victim blaming.
he was saying
Oh,
that for like
100%.
7 months, if not more.
100%. No, he said that we were doing like a moral culpability thought experiment, and I said if my boyfriend got his friend to tell me they were going bowling instead of the truth, which is like to a strip club or something, John Lee said that was on me because I can only like convince myself. No one can convince me.
You did that to yourself. That's
So he's
fucking
totally
abusive.
like if someone lies to someone and they believe it, it's like their fault. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think he said to both parties that the one who deceived and the one who believed, both of them are at fault, which is totally absurd.
Yeah. But I actually didn't even hear him say the other one was at fault. Maybe he did. But the one that stuck with me was that the deceived,
Yeah.
was like, they only had themselves
No,
to blame.
yeah, you are correct, because the first thing that he said is that you are at fault too because you believed. But then he also said, yeah, and also your boyfriend is at fault because he deceived you. He said it later, so it
Yeah,
might be like missed
but
between the lines.
the thing that's so crazy about that is that was a direct analogy for God sending the deceiving spirits. And John doesn't think God's morally at fault for that.
Oh, I couldn't even like finish my analogy with him because like he interrupted me the other
He
day.
was just all over the place because he has this. on the one hand, he wants to say God causes everything and God decrees everything and God wants everything to happen. And on the other hand, he wants to say God's not morally culpable. It puts him in this crazy position where he has to say things like, the hitman's not responsible. I mean, the person who hires the hitman's not responsible for the murder and stuff like that. It's completely insane. And he went back and forth on it, right? But it's just his initial position is a contradiction, and he can't get out of it. And that's why Matt was mad at him, because Matt's like, that's not, God doesn't want evil. Matt thinks that God, cries about evil or something, I don't know. I think if Matt gets silenced, we've got to help him, because he's just being manipulated by Johnny and John to keep his thoughts to himself.
John Lee is still convinced that somehow you guys got in touch with Amber, that you coached Amber before she had her conversation with John Lee, and that her first thoughts of John was not genuine.
That's bullshit. That's
That's a
complete
cope.
Yeah, that's what.
bullshit.
Yeah, that's just coke. That's just coke.
No, that's bullshit. I had no idea who John Lee was, and I picked him apart in 5 seconds when he started talking. I didn't know, and that was like, Haiti, that was like the second day I've ever been in this room.
Yeah, I mean, you
Like,
might name, right, but I don't think anyone sat you down and poisoned you against him.
no one said anything about John Lee to me at all. Like, literally, I mean, if he was in the room and people were talking to him, I possibly jumped in the conversation, but no one said, hey, there's this guy, you should go in there. Like, I'm not a bully. I don't do shit like that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think you went into it with good faith, and in 5 minutes, you're asking the room, am I the crazy one? Or this
Exactly.
gaslighter? Which is
Oh,
literally everybody's response, right?
Right.
oh,
Everybody has that feeling.
Haiti,
Yeah.
do you remember what I said to him before,
Yeah, don't.
yesterday when I said, "Hey, is he like trying to gaslight me?"
Oh,
Because his
right.
positions are, because he's like so over the
Yeah.
place, and
No,
Yeah,
he
he
is. The
is.
like
answer
his
is he is.
positions are so crazy. Like his positions are so crazy, and he's so over the place that you feel like it's not real life what is going on with
Yeah, I
this man.
remember you saying, is this real life? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was like
Rudy,
crazy.
you have to understand that John Lee has spent 23 years building dad bod theology. And in dad bod theology, he's able to change his position in the middle of the conversation and convey it like it's always his position.
Wait, who came up with this term, dad bod theology?
Jesse?
Jake.
Jesse
Jesse,
did,
yeah.
and then
Jake.
when I was talking with
Like,
Arn Raw and they were trying to get me to put Arn Raw and John Lee in a room together, I said absolutely not. I said I'm not gonna ambush Arn Raw with dad bod theology.
that's funny. James, it's like a little bit weird to see you somewhat disassociating yourself from John Lee.
Well, the thing
Like
is,
usually. Mhm.
I try to, be friendly with as many people as I can. John Lee is another Christian, but when a Christian says the kind of problematic statements that John Lee does, he's not making Christianity look good at all. He's not doing me any favors by continuing to make the kind of comments that he's doing on social media.
You know that John, he's probably expressed this to you. John thinks there's something going on with you, and it's got nothing to do with theology disagreements.
Yeah, that's because John is a person who gaslights.
Right.
Do you think he's spreading a false gospel, James?
I think that John Lee is. I think that John Lee, whether or not he likes it, would do more for the gospel by retiring and just going to get his wife coffee in the morning. I think that would be more beneficial for his time than sitting in the Prius and making a mockery of the gospel that I hold.
Do you think John Lee's very good for atheism?
Oh, John Lee's probably great for atheism. Like you got this shining nugget of a Christian walking around with his pants down on every social media platform. Like uh, I, I'm looking at it like, why wouldn't an atheist want to say, well, look, here's what some of these Christians or this Christian is doing online?
Also, John Lee literally used me for clout. It's like there's so many people in these rooms that curse him out to filth, and like he just wants to use my name. Like it was a whole conspiracy, and I came in and just like, was bullying him.
Yeah, that really upsets him that you picked him apart so quick, right? Because he wants to weigh in and lean on that we've been talking to him for a year and we have these opinions of him, such and such. But when somebody walks in off the street and sees the same thing, he finds that very uncomfortable.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah, it's total
bullshit.
bullshit. He's upset because you just recognize his character immediately.
Right.
And the thing too, like when you said that, I'm like, this person just met John, and it's like she knew him her whole entire life. Like you summed up John Lee in like 4 sentences. I was amazed. It was way more perceptive than I was initially meeting John.
I think, what was the countdown? It was 2.5 minutes, wasn't it?
It was within 5 minutes, yeah.
Two,
James,
yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
But
2:30.
within 5 minutes.
that's the main reason why I became an atheist, because I would run into people that were similar, not necessarily like John Lee's a very special case, but I always had unanswered questions, and it was just always like hypocritical answers, and John was just like by far like the most delusional Christian I've ever spoken to. So it was very easy for me to just see that like almost immediately.
James, I don't know if you were here for this, but Cyrus came in totally defending you and saying, John was a hypocrite.
I listened to the full 2 hour Tom video this
John
morning
is
for the
John is
first
here,
time,
by the way.
Amber. So that was phenomenal. The countdown. So kudos, hats off. That was when I listened to the whole thing 2 hours. I couldn't turn myself away.
All right, let's hear how this secret
That was me and John.
Matt thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was you and John. It's like 2 hours.
Oh
It was
shit.
fantastic.
Cool, thanks.
John, are you coming on
John's
stage?
here.
We want to hear how you managed to silence Matt Adams.
Yeah, we're all aware of you putting him under a spotlight in a windowless room, so
I
it's
Yeah.
not going to
was
work.
I was
What's Johnny gonna think of the fight between John, like now John Lee's enemies with Matt Adams and James Tired? What's Johnny
Well,
gonna
this
think
is
of
what
that?
happened. Johnny called them into a private room, the three of them, because Johnny wants to make it go away.
Oh
And
my god,
John's
I would
just
pay
out.
money to hear that conversation.
Oh, right. But they made it private because they don't air their dirty linen in public. John, what happened?
I think I'm sworn to secrecy.
Wow. Well, we're gonna see
So I heard.
if Matt comes
I,
back like a meek church mouse. We'll know it worked.
They discussed
well, I heard
apparently how to
James is
take over the
tired.
world.
I heard James is tired calling out John. And I've heard James is tired. Did Matt call out John
Yes, you
this
got to
time?
listen to the replay from
Oh,
last night.
oh,
Uh,
okay. That's what I've missed.
called
Okay.
the John Levy Amber Rose After Party or something.
Okay. Okay.
Can
I'll have to
somebody send me
listen.
that link? What is
Yeah,
it?
I can.
I'll
Yeah,
just pin it. Yeah, just pin it.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So, James, my hat's off to you too for continuing to call out, ridiculous things that other Christians say. So, my hat's off to you on that. But I sure would like to hear Matt do that because that's quite
well,
unusual.
if you're a Christian and you're so out of touch with the Bible, reality, conversations with people, to say that God not only caused but is guiding the to child I can't get on board with that kind of ignorance, and that ignorance does not do nothing to benefit the gospel.
I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint. Ride or die.